Yeah. Who wants to hear a story? I know I do. Hey you, sitting there with nothing to do, why don't you come over here and maybe try something new? Yes you, don't waste your time just planting your seeds. Let's partake in FlameAmigo619 reads. You got a pick, he'll read ya, hilarity he'll feed ya, or maybe deep emotions, whatever the feeling doesn't matter. Either solo or with friends, we're going on a trip to faraway places, or maybe not, just take a tip from me. He does have some standards, they're not far-fetched, it's a stretch, so keep that in mind, don't be a bitch. So kick up your feet, find something comfy to sit in, and enjoy the show. Now let us begin.
Hello, every people. Welcome to FlameAmigo619. Because I got the title right that time. Yes, this is episode, I believe, 24. Yes, finally. I actually looked at the guide to make sure I was right this time. Welcome to another exciting issue of this little fanfic reading podcast thingamahoosit. I have people here today, including Jewel.
Hello.
Tanya.
Hello. It's Uber Assassin.
Yes. Jimmy.
If you think these fanfics are supposed to make sense, then you're obviously drunk.
Sage.
They have held me here against my will. Someone save me!
It's in your contract. You can't get out of it.
Bitch, please.
You'll
The
never
door's been
get
open this
me.
entire time. Joey.
Why do I keep coming back here?
Because you are under contract.
Yep.
You are strictly under contract.
And new to this lovely podcast thingamahoosit, Joel.
Hello, everybody. Yes. Are you supposed to be Russian? Capitalist America bankrupts you. Yes. Will, unfortunately, cannot be here because, well, you see, there was a time...
Someone kidnapped him at work.
No. You see, what happened was he tried to save George Washington's cherry tree from getting kidnapped and taken to New Zealand, but he got eaten by crocodiles, and now we're waiting for nature to take its course.
So basically, the cherry was popped.
Really?
Aw,
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, that's disturbing.
Today's fanfic we are reading is Happy Hooves. Yeah, I know some of you are giving me weird looks like, but wait, we already read Happy Hooves. Guess what? Somebody made a new chapter for it, so therefore we are obligated. Therefore the author decided, haha, now we have to read even more of this shit. But, alright then, if this is how it's going to be, it's how it's going to be. This is Happy Hooves Chapter 2, Segway Spike. As the burning sensation in his head began to slowly diminish, Spike warily opened his eyes and, blinking multiple times, glanced around his surroundings. He couldn't remember what exactly happened, but the image of a psychotic white alicorn wielding a baseball bat seemed to be engraved in his mind forever. He shivered in horror. Once the scenery stopped spinning, the small dragon got to his feet and took a closer look at the foreground. It looked suspiciously bland, only a few random gray blocks against the dark sky. There was no wind or light, no temperature that he could place his claw on. It seemed oddly normal.
Alright, what did you guys do to that punch?
He chuckled, trying to find an outline of a pony form behind the curtain. He expected some pony to laugh, giving away their hiding spot as easy as stealing a cupcake from Twilight. But no pony answered.
Good job, guys.
Spike said, more than a little freaked out by the thought that he might be alone.
You can come out now.
There was a small fleeting flash of white light out of the corner of his eye, but when he turned to question it, there was only the same blackness. He gulped nervously.
Awesome prank.
He shuffled his feet, finding that the resulting sound was cartoonish and dull.
Gonna have to put it in the record book.
Although nothing moved, the small Drake was sure he'd heard the sound of a hoof scuffing plastic. How could that be when there was no pony in sight?
You moved.
He goaded.
Ha! Gave yourself.
Miraculously, something moved. It was him. His scaly legs jerked back and forth, the action making him blush furiously. Whoever was doing this, he hoped he or she wasn't watching, and that it wasn't a mare.
Cut it out!
Spike growled. His legs sadly didn't listen. A hard object bopped him from behind, throwing off his balance.
It's enough that you're making me do that.
He shouted, supremely embarrassed.
But now you're gonna throw stuff at me? That's harsh, man.
Whatever controlled the object didn't budge. Spike figured it wouldn't hurt to see what had befallen him. It was a dark Segway, the wheels shining brightly in the dim light as it sat behind him.
Does anybody want to claim this Segway?
Spike asked. Nothing answered. He shook his head and looked back at the sophisticated yet utterly simple device. Twilight had found a book on the subject of equestrian technology only a few weeks ago, and he recognized it from one of the pictures in the transportation section.
What's this, Twy?
He had asked, setting his claw on the glossy photo. The studious mare was eagerly looking at the price tags of a few books in the adult section of the store. She had levitated the book over to her and grinned.
Oh.
She called behind her.
It's called a Segway, Spike. They used to be immensely popular in Equestria, especially in Canterlot. But for the oddest reason, they died out after a year.
He found himself drawn to one part of the simplistic, gorgeous machine in particular, the bright scarlet switch in the long bar that was the backbone of the Segway. Spike felt a strange longing for it wash over him, and momentarily all the embarrassing events of the day drifted into the back of his mind.
I'd love to touch it!
Spike shouted, and so he did.
Touch.
The Segway blazed to life as he laid his claw on the switch, and his senses were bombarded with the rancid stench of gasoline and the sudden burst of light from the sleek dashboard. Everything was a thick blur, one newfound trait of the powered-on device merging with another until all of a sudden the Segway was still. He examined it closer, finding that the gas had nearly stopped billowing, and that the lights had dimmed considerably.
What's a Segway? It's something that mall cops use.
Yeah, it's like a lazy, big-ass scooter.
Well then, Joey, I should get you one for your birthday.
Yeah, try, spending $2,000 on one.
Fuck that, you're not worth it. Anyway,
Neato!
he said. Slowly but surely he climbed onto the Segway. A tinny voice that suspiciously sounded like Twilight told him not to.
You don't know who touched it before you.
She yelled.
Wash your claws, take a bath, and get a job.
No!
He yelled out defensively, childishly, his gnarled fingers holding the steering device taut.
No, Twilight!
In his fit of rage, the small dragon had pushed his arm forward, putting the dormant Segway in motion. His eyes opened wide as he realized the device was going forward at an alarming pace. Whether he ran into a wall, a curtain, or a pony, it wasn't the worst thing on his mind.
Hey!
Spike squealed in terror. The scent of gasoline slowly but surely reappeared in the air.
Stop it! I command you!
It didn't listen to him. A spark of brilliance hit the reptile like a blast of freezing water after he had just awoken. Taking a deep breath, he shifted his arm back. Amazingly, he stopped moving. The Segway purred in response.
I must be the smartest dragon in the world!
He exclaimed, pumping his fist happily.
I'm sorry, that voice is just so funny.
Alright. Spike, out of both curiosity and ignorance, slowly edged the handle forwards. The dragon felt the engine warm beneath his feet, and heard the Segway moan softly as if it were begging for more. Oh, please, I beg of you, do not turn this into I'd Like to Be a Tree version 2 Spike and a Segway. No, better yet, don't turn this into I'd Like to Be a Segway, please. I don't want to go anywhere near that.
I'd like to be a Segway.
God, don't give him any more influence.
So that's what the exhaust pipe is for.
Oh my...
Joey!
Go sit in the corner!
Hey, if I don't make a joke in this friggin' reading, I'm going home. Even though I'm already there.
Alright, fine. You made your joke. Now sit back and relax. He grinned with devilish delight, already wondering everything that could be accomplished with this amazing technology.
I mean, look at it! Sleek black metal. Tiny little handles. Tons of flashing lights. This Segway's got everything going for it.
He stroked the tall midsection of the Segway, savoring the feel of the chilly metal. The dragon's eyes brightened in devilish delight, and his claws felt as if they were energized with a newfound drive for speed. Slowly he brought his tongue across his lethal fangs.
Time for a real test drive.
Spike pushed the handles forward with all his might, making the lustful Segway growl passionately. Okay, does this motherfucker have a fetish for Segways or... Is there... Okay, somebody put down in the comments, is there such a thing as a fetish for Segways? If somebody can find me that,
Rule 34, no exceptions.
There's actually a Tumblr post about a fetish for Segways.
What did I get myself into?
A smoke billowed out of its rear, and the engine heated up beneath his trembling feet.
Oh, baby.
Spike moaned, feeling the pressure build up inside the machine's underbelly. All at once, that pressure exploded in the form of a huge blast of energy that propelled Spike and the Segway forward. The sound barrier bent around them, and the poor dragon fought to keep his eyes open against the heavy pressure. Spike also felt the swift wind rushing through his scales, nearly tearing them off as well, cascading down his spine, energizing his spirit.
Oh, yeah.
He cried. As soon as the words were out of his mouth, the air current swiped them away and left silence in his wake. Spike's vision slowly began to clear, and he saw the faint outline of the pavement's end approaching. He began hyperventilating and searched for any hidden lever or button that could propel him up. He worked too slowly, and the Segway bounced over the ledge and up onto the other side, landing gracefully on both wheels. Spike's jaw went slack, and his heart did somersaults in his chest as the device scooted on, leaving the gap in the dust.
I'm alive!
He shouted, grabbing hold of the steering mechanism and turning it sharply, hoping to create the best wheelie Equestria had ever seen. If the mechanism wasn't stiff, he might have accomplished that. No matter how hard he tried, Spike couldn't turn the Segway to any side, and after some experiments, he found that he couldn't control the speed either. The Segway was locked in a straight direction, and his speed was enough to impress Rainbow Dash. Spikes burst out of nowhere, lacing across his path like jagged teeth. The dragon, already knowing his fate, simply took his claws off the steering wheel and prayed that his death be quick. He closed his eyes after taking a final look at his surroundings, savoring those last few moments. If only they weren't spent in this strange area, riding a possibly possessed demonic Segway at the hands of Spikes that appeared out of nowhere. Life could be worse, though, he thought sullenly. Suddenly, every ounce of weight disappeared from his body in a single sweep. And just as he was getting used to being as light as a feather, there was a rush of blood to his appendages. These appendages promptly exploded, thanks to the spikes viciously digging their sharp tips into said arms and legs. The pain was indescribable, searing, pure agony, and for the second time Spike wondered exactly why he was here. Before he could think of more precise adjectives to describe his emotions, Spike's weight piled back onto his frail frame and all the gaping wounds were closed up. When he dared open his eyes, he saw the Segway shredding past the Spikes. Spike would have squealed and yelled, but what lay in front of the Segway now made him wish the Spikes had killed him. His heart stopped, his eyes blazed with pure undiluted, undefergen...
Undiluted.
Fuck it, undefergen fear. Oh, God. You know what? I'm unprofessional for a reason, fuck it. The dragon let out a long, droning squeal that sounded much more appropriate coming from one of Applejack's hogs. This thing screamed misery, pain, sorrow. Why did he, a humble dragon from Ponyville, have to be thrust at it? Surely there were ponies who had sinned more than himself, right? It approached swiftly. Time seemed to slow, but not enough to make the object's movement seem any less rapid. This is the end, he thought bravely. Tell Twilight I loved her, as a friend, not as a... Ugh. He rested, took his mind off of his impending doom. He was hit by a sudden rush of bravery, and Spike thought back to all those heroic stallions in the novels Twilight owned. They feared nothing, vanquished everything, and did it with grace. There was once, long ago, that he wondered if there would be a time when he'd have to be like them, with the flowing manes and devious twinkle in their eyes. It was time. He fiddled with the handlebars, making a little, allowing him to slow down or speed forwards. Grinning like the maniac he was, the dragon thrust both of them forward. Combined with the thing, he figured that it was only a few seconds away from being flattened and promptly eaten. Suddenly, the Segway stopped. The sudden stop made his stomach jump, but that wasn't the worst of his problems.
Hey, so I said they die pretty quickly.
He mused. He looked down at the dashboard, which was completely black. The stench of smoke was completely gone, and the Segway was done for.
Crap.
The bzzzt loomed over him. Error. The change from such a bright scene to a plain black screen was so drastic that Celestia jumped out of her plush seat, spitting out coke like a sprinkler.
What?
Wait, what?
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 Oh, okay, I'm just gonna run with it. A popcorn kernel popped out from between her teeth, lodging itself into her priceless monitor, but she didn't care at all.
Error?
The almighty deity of Equestria roared, her bloodshot eyes sluggishly scanning the otherwise normal web page. Her hoof darted to the mouse, then to the refresh button at the top of her browser.
Stupid Internet Explorer. I knew I should have switched to Chrome. All of Canterlot has.
Really?
What? What?
Really?
What?
This doesn't make sense at all.
So it was the princess on the computer all along.
Basically. Slowly the page loaded and displayed a set of words all too familiar to a die-hard internet junkie and a symbol all too aggravating. One of her eyes twitched, a habit she had formed early on as a foal, when she used to stare into the sun for hours on end. She figured that looking at a bright computer monitor for even longer wasn't much different.
Internet Explorer cannot connect to the internet?
Celestia hissed.
Please troubleshoot your network connection.
Her horn glowed a fierce yellow when she locked her computer with a flick of magic.
It's got internet in the name.
She grumbled, summoning from thin air a copy of Troubleshooting Your Console for Immortal Rulers. After igniting the light in her horn again, she slipped behind the computer tower and began to skim through the obnoxiously huge book.
In the event of an internet malfunction, turn everything off, then turn everything back on.
Celestia read.
If the preceding directions do not work, you did something wrong.
Her eyes flared with anger, but the alicorn collected herself nonetheless and switched everything connected to the main tower into the off position. The familiar electrical current disappeared, and Celestia felt like the walls were closing in on her. The sooner she got the internet working, the sooner she could get back to Happy Hooves. Some days she wondered how she, and all of Equestria for that matter, had gone on living before this amazing game. As swiftly as the current disappeared, though once white, she was now covered in Cheeto dust, regular dust, and sweat, which white was far from it. Pony smashed her horn into the switch and alighted into her plush seat, specialized gaming mouse, and her chubby little hooves. She felt the power of the internet flow through her, fueling her in her quest to top the scoreboard. The Windows screen loaded, brandishing the familiar logo like a banner. Celestia would barely contain her excitement. All of a sudden, the screen turned black, and the computer tower made a deep whimper, as if some pony had beat it over the head with a baseball bat. Something inside the monitor sparked. The smell of fried wires wafted through the air. She thought she heard a small pop within the computer tower, followed by a lot of things falling all at once. Celestia was not a happy pony.
What is wrong with this thing?
She sobbed, lashing out at her keyboard in a fit of rage. A few keys splintered and leaped from their spots, hitting her face. Technology seemed to be mocking her. The alicorn growled and opened up the guidebook again. Nothing in all 500 thick pages mentioned the computer freezing up and promptly imploding. She was caught up in her moaning and groaning in self-pity that the white mare didn't see a suspicious dark figure materialize. Noticed the twinkle in the pony's eyes.
It's been so long since I played Happy Hooves.
Celestia wailed, throwing everything, including the book, out the window and slamming her front hooves into the monitor. The plastic broke into shards and embedded themselves into her flesh, but nothing mattered more to her than Happy Hooves. In her godly eyes, the maker of the fine game should be immortalized. The whimpering came to an abrupt stop, and the sudden silence made Celestia's eyes widen until her pupils were just dots. Her sense of hearing sharpened, and her ear began to swivel rapidly. She could hear herself breathing heavily. In the corner of the room, a hoof brushed against the perfectly clean tiles. Celestia whipped around to face the creature, conjuring nunchucks from the air and holding them at the ready.
Celestia, nunchucks, does not compute.
I'm not going to question it.
Nothing in this fake capoots!
Was in the corner, didn't expect in the slightest. Luna, grinning ear to ear with two cords hanging from her mouth. The white alicorn had read enough of that stupid book to know that one connected the Wi-Fi adapter to the socket, and the other was a very important cord that connected the computer tower and monitor to the graphics card. The Moon Princess giggled.
Art thou aggravated, dear sister?
Luna!
Celestia roared, launching herself at her nimble counterpart. Squealing, Luna raced down the stairs, cords waving like banners, and Celestia, after picking herself up, followed suit.
You're going to pay for this!
Da 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 da.
Well then, that was interesting.
What the fuck?
I don't understand.
So much fun.
I want to say two things quickly. One, Epic Guy, keep making chapters from this because this is it's beautiful. Second, I was not expecting Spike to be halfway going through puberty through this entire fic. Well done.
Oh, do you come here often, Segway?
Oh god, no, please.
No, 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 no,
They're gonna
no.
get first the dragon scooters.
Oh dear, you know what? If nobody's gonna make a Segway Spike story, I will. This has been FlameAmigo619 Reads. Join us next week when we read whatever the fuck it is we decided to read. Good night, every pony and every peoples. Oh, and like,
Hey.
oh yeah, like, subscribe, swag, all that good stuff. Good night.